Welcome, beloved anointed ones. Truth has a strange habit. It waits quietly, then returns with receipts. That's the kind of moment you're stepping into right now. One of those rare shifts where everything people assumed, whispered, or confidently declared about you is about to look embarrassingly premature. Because somewhere out there, someone has finally stumbled on the very proof that flips your whole story from hard to believe to how did everyone miss this? And trust me, the embarrassment won't be yours. What makes this moment even more fascinating is that human psychology proves something surprising. Most people don't reject the truth because it's complicated. They reject it because it inconveniences their preferred reality. That's why your honesty couldn't make it past certain ears, no matter how loud or calm you said it. Some people weren't confused. They were committed to misunderstanding you. But here's the twist. One person wasn't. One person actually paid attention. They didn't rush to conclusions, join the crowd, or depend on rumors to think for them. They followed the facts the way a detective follows the smell of jollof rice, relentlessly, passionately, and slightly too seriously. And now they've uncovered something solid, something undeniable, something that puts your truth in a spotlight so bright your enemies are probably blinking blindly somewhere right now. This isn't just about someone believing you. This is about someone being so sure of what they discovered that they're prepared to step into the storm on your behalf. They're ready to speak up, stand up, and shake up everything that was built on lies. And honestly, the timing couldn't be better, because some people have been too comfortable acting like your experiences were just your imagination doing overtime. Well, overtime is over. What's happening next isn't defense. It's revelation. It's the moment where someone finally says, "Enough," and uses real, tangible proof to clear your name and correct what should have been corrected long ago. And the part that might make you laugh a little? The same people who dismissed you will now suddenly develop Olympic-level memory loss. Convenient, right? So settle in. Because the truth didn't just rise, it found a champion. And that changes everything. Number 1. Someone finally saw the pattern others pretended not to see. For the longest time it felt like people were blind on purpose. You kept explaining, repeating, clarifying, yet nothing changed. It wasn't that the truth was complicated. It was that most people didn't want to admit what was right in front of them. They chose comfort over clarity. They chose the easy narrative over the accurate one. But this person who stepped in didn't operate like that. They weren't fooled by charm, fear, popularity, or the exaggerated stories that were built around you. They paid attention to the one thing everyone else tried to skip over: consistency. Your story never changed. Your reactions never shifted. Your details never wobbled. Meanwhile, the people who accused you kept rewriting their version every time they got nervous or caught off guard. That contrast is what opened this person's eyes. The turning point for them wasn't a dramatic confession or some heated argument. It was the quiet, repetitive pattern, the same contradiction showing up again and again, the same timelines that never matched, the same behaviors that always led back to the same individuals. This person noticed the rhythm in the chaos, and once they saw it, they couldn't unsee it. They realized your truth wasn't hidden. It was simply ignored by people who benefited from pretending not to notice. What makes their realization even more powerful is that they didn't come to it because of emotion. They weren't swayed by sympathy or pity. They came to it because the facts lined up too perfectly for coincidence. Every detail pointed to the same conclusion. You were telling the truth all along. They saw how everything you said years ago matched what they're seeing now. They saw how the behaviors you warned them about kept repeating themselves like a broken alarm. Suddenly, the whole picture made sense. And that's why they're stepping forward. When someone sees the pattern clearly, they understand the weight of what you've been carrying. They understand the loneliness that comes with knowing the truth before anyone else does. They understand the frustration you swallowed while people dismissed you. Now, they're not just believing you, they're backing you with conviction. Because once someone finally sees the full pattern, defending you becomes the only logical thing left to do. Number 2, your truth didn't convince them, your enemy's mistakes did. It's ironic, isn't it? The very people who doubted you, who laughed at you, and who twisted your words are the ones who ultimately exposed the truth. Your ally didn't become convinced simply because they wanted to believe you. They became convinced because your enemies kept making mistakes that no one could ignore. Every lie they told, every detail they fumbled, every contradiction they tried to hide, built a trail that led directly back to them. What your ally saw wasn't your story. It was their failures laid bare. The evidence spoke louder than anything you could say. It didn't matter how many times they spun a narrative or tried to gaslight those around you. Each misstep added weight to the reality they were trying so hard to bury. These mistakes weren't tiny or accidental. They were careless, sloppy, and glaring. Dates that didn't match, screenshots deleted then recovered, conversations that vanished only to reappear with edits, and claims that couldn't survive even the most basic scrutiny. Your enemies acted as if someone wouldn't notice, as if the world would accept the illusion they created. But your ally did notice. They saw the inconsistencies pile up like dominoes waiting to fall, and when they did, it became undeniable. You weren't lying. You weren't overreacting. You weren't imagining things. They realized that the real problem wasn't your story. It was the trail of errors your enemies left behind. That realization created an unshakable conviction. Your ally understood that believing you wasn't just fair, it was necessary. Ignoring the evidence was no longer an option because the proof was too strong, too visible, and too specific to dismiss. Your enemies had left fingerprints on the narrative, and your ally could finally read the pattern clearly. Every slip, every contradiction, every attempt to rewrite the past became a building block for the truth. And so, they stepped in, not because they needed to rescue you, but because the mistakes of your enemies demanded correction. They didn't just recognize your honesty, they recognized the audacity of those who tried to manipulate reality and decided it was time for accountability. Your truth didn't need defending. It needed witnesses who could see what the liars couldn't hide. Number 3, they believed you because they checked what nobody else bothered to check. The difference between being dismissed and being believed often comes down to one simple thing: effort. Most people never bothered to look closely. They heard bits of the story, glanced at the surface, and decided it wasn't worth their time. They accepted what was convenient rather than what was true. But this person didn't operate that way. They didn't just hear your words, they verified them. They traced timelines, compared statements, revisited old conversations, and examined every piece of evidence that others ignored. Every tiny detail you mentioned that was dismissed as irrelevant became a key piece of the puzzle in their eyes. They weren't motivated by emotion, loyalty, or pity. They were motivated by precision. They understood that truth leaves a trail and lies always falter when someone cares enough to follow it. While others were comfortable nodding along and then forgetting, this person went further. They cross-checked, questioned inconsistencies, and looked for connections that had been conveniently overlooked. They were relentless because they knew that the weight of your experience wasn't something to shrug off. It demanded attention. And as they pieced together the facts, a clear image emerged, one that everyone else had failed to see because no one had put in the work. What makes this moment extraordinary is that the truth doesn't need persuasion when it is supported by evidence. Your ally didn't take anyone's word for it, including yours. They examined, confirmed, and validated it themselves. That process transformed belief into certainty. They didn't just decide to trust you, they confirmed it through action by taking the time to dig where others wouldn't. This painstaking effort didn't just prove your honesty, it elevated it. It showed that reality doesn't bend to opinion, and that consistent truth is unstoppable when someone finally pays attention. Their belief isn't fleeting or shallow, it's built on facts that cannot be twisted, and that is why your truth is no longer a question. It is undeniable, confirmed, and supported by someone who refused to accept the convenient lie that everyone else had settled for. Number 4. The evidence didn't just clear your name, it exposed the intentions behind the lies. The moment someone uncovers the truth, it doesn't just vindicate you, it shines a light on the people who spent so long trying to bury it. The evidence that finally emerged doesn't leave room for interpretation. It doesn't just say, "This is what happened." It says, "This is why it happened." And that revelation can be far more shocking than the initial injustice. It exposes the motives, the fear, the envy, and the calculated moves that fueled the lies against you. Your enemies weren't clumsy by accident, they were deliberate. Every false claim, every distortion, every attempt to isolate or discredit you was driven by a specific agenda. The evidence unmasks that agenda in a way that no argument or testimony could ever match. Your ally didn't just see the proof, they saw the roadmap behind the deception. They saw how certain people manipulated perceptions to maintain control, protect reputations, or cover up their own failures. They realized that the lies weren't just about you, they were about power, insecurity, and the desperate need to silence someone who refused to play along. Each detail, each timestamp, each document revealed a layer of strategy, a hidden intention that others had hoped would remain invisible. And once those intentions are exposed, the power dynamic flips. The people who thought they could manipulate reality are suddenly the ones under scrutiny, and their credibility collapses under the weight of their own actions. What makes this even more powerful is that exposing intentions isn't just about accountability, it's about understanding. Your ally now sees the truth not only as your story, but as a mirror reflecting human behavior in its rawest form. The lies are no longer random, they are predictable, motivated, and entirely human. And that clarity gives your ally a sense of purpose and direction. They're not just defending you, they're confronting the system of deception, holding the responsible parties accountable, and ensuring that no one can manipulate the narrative again. This kind of revelation doesn't just restore justice, it rewrites the story in a way that's undeniable, precise, and deeply satisfying. The evidence didn't just clear your name, it exposed the architecture of deceit, and anyone who ever doubted you can't unsee the truth now. Number 5. This ally isn't defending you out of guilt, they're defending you out of principle. What makes this person's support so powerful is that it doesn't come from obligation, sympathy, or feeling sorry for you. They're not stepping in because they pity you or because they think you're fragile. They're stepping in because what they discovered offended their sense of fairness. There's a difference between someone helping you because they feel they should, and someone helping you because something inside them refuses to let the truth be mistreated. This person operates with a built-in moral compass, the kind that doesn't bend when things get uncomfortable. And once they saw the reality of what you went through, their principles kicked in stronger than any personal connection ever could. This is the type of person who can't sit quietly when something is wrong. Even if speaking up costs them relationships, comfort, or convenience, they still do it because their character demands it. They've seen enough of life to know that silence is a form of participation, and they refuse to let their silence be used as someone else's shelter. Helping you isn't a favor, it's a stand. It's them choosing the side of truth, even if the truth isn't popular. What's even more interesting is that they didn't rush into defending you. They took their time. They observed, analyzed, and evaluated everything with a clear mind. Their decision wasn't emotional. It was logical and ethical. They saw the lies for what they were. They saw the games people were playing around your name. They saw how easily people dismissed you just to avoid the responsibility of looking deeper. And all of that triggered something inside them that couldn't be ignored. They're not helping to feel heroic or important. They're helping because injustice irritates them on a fundamental level, because they know how damaging it is when truth is buried under noise, because they recognize that some situations require someone brave enough to say, "No, this isn't right." Their support has nothing to do with you being weak. It has everything to do with them being strong enough to defend what's right, even when others refuse to. Number 6, your situation awakened their dormant courage. Courage doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it lies dormant, waiting for the right moment to surface, and your situation became that moment. The person defending you didn't just stumble into bravery. They discovered it because of the injustice they witnessed, watching what you endured, seeing how your truth was dismissed, ignored, or twisted, triggered something deep inside them. It wasn't about you alone. It was about the part of themselves they had buried under routine, fear, and compromise. They realized that remaining passive was no longer an option, not if they wanted to stay true to who they are beneath all the masks life had forced them to wear. This awakening didn't happen overnight. It came as they observed the patterns of deception around you, the repeated lies, the manipulation, the unfair judgments. Each act of wrongdoing they saw against you chipped away at the calm detachment they had held for years. At some point they realized that if they didn't step in, the weight of the truth would continue to be ignored, and the guilty would continue to escape accountability. And when that realization hit, the dormant courage they had tucked away finally stood up and demanded action. Their courage is rare because it's not fueled by ego or self-interest. It's not about being a hero. It's a response to witnessing injustice on a scale that can't be ignored. It's the part of a person that refuses to compromise integrity just because the majority does, and because it was awakened by your experience. It carries an intensity and clarity that casual support could never match. They understand the stakes. They understand that speaking up may come with backlash, resistance, or even ridicule. But that doesn't matter. They've chosen principle over comfort, truth over silence. By defending you, they're not just helping correct the record, they're proving to themselves and to the world that courage isn't something you wait for. Sometimes it's awakened by the people who refuse to back down and the situations that refuse to be ignored. Your struggle became the spark, and now their courage is blazing, unstoppable and unshakable. Number 7, they know the truth places them in danger, but they still chose your side. Standing up for someone else's truth isn't always safe. The person defending you knows this. They know that once they step forward, they risk backlash, criticism, or even direct attacks from the same people who targeted you. They understand that aligning with your story might make them a target, put them in uncomfortable positions, or challenge alliances they've built over time. And yet, despite knowing the risks, they chose to stand firmly on your side. That choice alone reveals the depth of both their conviction and the credibility of your truth. They didn't make this decision lightly. They weighed the consequences, understood the challenges, and recognized the pushback they would face. And still, they decided that truth and justice were worth the potential cost. That's what sets this person apart from the rest. Their loyalty isn't blind, and their courage isn't impulsive. They didn't follow emotions or trends. They followed facts and principle. Every risky step they take is a calculated act of integrity, a deliberate statement that the truth matters more than safety, comfort, or popularity. What makes their decision extraordinary is the clarity it brings to your situation. Their willingness to face danger confirms what you've been saying all along. It demonstrates that your story isn't fabricated or exaggerated. If it were, no one would risk so much to defend it. Their actions validate the consistency, authenticity, and weight of your experience. This isn't just support. It's a strategic, intentional stand that sends a message to everyone who doubted you. It exposes the fear and insecurity behind the lies while showing that the truth has allies who won't be intimidated. By choosing your side despite the risks, they turn the tables. Your enemy's power diminishes while the credibility of your truth grows. Their bravery doesn't just defend you, it amplifies your story, making it impossible to ignore or dismiss. In the end, their choice proves a simple but powerful fact. When the truth aligns with courage, no threat is strong enough to stop it. By standing with you in the face of danger, they confirm that your truth was never just a story. It was real, undeniable, and worthy of every risk taken to defend it. Number 8. They realized the silence around you was manufactured, not natural. For years, it probably felt like people just didn't hear you, or that your words were falling into a void. Most would assume that silence was a natural response, people being busy, disinterested, or distracted. But this person saw through it. They realized the silence wasn't a coincidence or a reflection of your credibility. It was orchestrated. Every avoidance, every change of subject, every awkward pause was deliberate. The people around you weren't ignoring the truth. They were suppressing it. And once someone spots that, everything changes. This realization is powerful because manufactured silence isn't just about being ignored. It's about control. The people who kept quiet, or encouraged others to, were actively trying to shape a narrative, manipulate perception, and isolate you. They wanted your voice to be lost among the noise. But your ally didn't buy it. They noticed the calculated gaps, the sudden shifts in attention, the suspicious timing of when people chose to forget or misunderstand what you said. That pattern couldn't be accidental. It was too consistent, too perfectly aligned with attempts to discredit or manipulate. Once they understood this, their approach changed entirely. They no longer saw your struggle as a personal failure or a result of indifference. They saw it as the result of deliberate obstruction. That meant the truth wasn't weak. The system around you was. And this insight gave them the motivation to step in with authority, strategy, and determination. They weren't just supporting you, they were challenging the mechanics of manipulation, tearing apart the illusion of indifference, and making sure your voice could no longer be ignored. Recognizing manufactured silence also shifts perspective on the past. Every time you felt unseen or unheard, it wasn't because people didn't care. It was because they were actively trying to hide, twist, or suppress reality. And now, with this awareness on your side, your ally doesn't just defend you. They dismantle the very system that allowed your voice to be silenced in the first place. The truth, once hidden in orchestrated quiet, is now undeniable, exposed, and unstoppable. Number 9. They discovered the piece of evidence your enemies didn't know existed. Sometimes it takes just one overlooked detail to unravel an entire web of lies. This ally didn't just stumble upon general proof. They found the piece your enemies thought was buried forever. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't immediately obvious, and it wasn't something anyone expected to surface. That was exactly why it was so powerful. While your enemies were busy fabricating stories, rewriting timelines, and manipulating perceptions, they left behind a single thread that tied everything together. That thread didn't lie. That thread didn't exaggerate. That thread told the story your enemies desperately wanted to erase, and it was this ally who had the patience, persistence, and sharp eye to catch it. The existence of that evidence doesn't just prove your innocence, it rewrites the narrative entirely. What your enemies built on lies, assumptions, and selective memory crumbles when faced with a single, undeniable truth. Your ally recognized the significance of what they had found. They knew this wasn't just a minor win or a small correction. It was the key that unlocked the full picture. Every inconsistency your enemies tried to defend against suddenly becomes glaring. Every lie they carefully constructed falls apart. That one piece of evidence has a domino effect, exposing the manipulations, the false narratives, and the intentions behind them. What's extraordinary about this discovery is how it amplifies your truth. It shows that your honesty wasn't fragile or circumstantial. It was complete and consistent, even in ways that your enemies never anticipated. Your ally didn't just verify your story. They unearthed a proof that your adversaries assumed didn't exist, and in doing so, they removed every last shadow of doubt. That moment of uncovering changes everything. It shifts the power. It turns those who doubted you into witnesses to the reality they ignored. It transforms your truth from a contested claim into an undeniable fact. This single piece of evidence doesn't just clear your name, it confirms your consistency, your integrity, and the failures of those who tried to manipulate the world's perception of you. And once it's revealed, nothing your enemies do can erase it. Number 10. Their support doesn't fix the past, but it destroys the false narrative built about you. No amount of proof or witness can undo the pain, frustration, and injustice you've already endured. That's the hard truth. The people who dismissed you, doubted you, or twisted your story have left marks that can't simply vanish. But what this ally brings is something just as powerful. They dismantle the fake story your enemies spent so long building. Every rumor, every lie, every exaggerated claim that painted you as unreliable, dishonest, or weak now faces direct contradiction, backed by solid evidence. Their support doesn't erase what happened, but it reshapes how it's remembered, and that is nothing short of transformative. This person didn't step in to make the past feel easier or to rewrite your experiences. They stepped in to expose the distortion. They've gone through the lies meticulously, sorted them from reality, and strategically positioned the truth where it can't be ignored. Their actions shine a light on the falsehoods, highlight contradictions, and reveal manipulations that were once invisible to most people. The narrative that made you the villain, the liar, or the overreactor begins to collapse the moment they present what is undeniable. The very structure of deception starts crumbling under the weight of their validation. What makes this moment exceptional is the permanence of the shift. Lies can be whispered again, but with a credible ally presenting proof, those whispers carry far less weight. People start seeing patterns they ignored before, noticing the inconsistencies they accepted, and questioning the intentions behind the false narrative. The false story loses credibility, and your truth gains authority. Even though the past cannot be undone, their support ensures that the lies no longer define you. Your integrity is no longer up for debate. Your experiences are no longer negotiable. What your enemies built on deception is exposed for what it really was, a desperate attempt to control perception, which now backfires spectacularly. In standing with you, this ally doesn't just defend your name. They erase the hold that false narratives had over your life, leaving only the truth standing in its place. Number 11. They're not just backing you, they're documenting everything. What separates casual support from unwavering, life-changing support is the level of detail and commitment. This ally isn't simply standing by your side. They're meticulously recording every piece of evidence, every interaction, every contradiction, and every attempt to manipulate the truth. They understand that memories fade, stories are distorted, and lies are often repeated to create a false reality. By documenting everything, they're creating an unshakable foundation that ensures your truth cannot be questioned, misrepresented, or forgotten. Their approach is precise and calculated. Nothing is left to chance. Every conversation is archived, every screenshot saved, every timeline verified. They're constructing a framework of undeniable facts. And within that framework, your story no longer exists as an opinion. It becomes indisputable reality. What's remarkable is the foresight this takes. Most people would support you emotionally and leave it at that. This ally goes further. They know that in order to truly protect you and validate your experience, every small piece of truth must be preserved and presented in a way that can withstand scrutiny, challenge, and the attempts of others to twist it. By documenting everything, they're also building a defense that is proactive, not reactive. The evidence they collect prevents future attacks before they happen. It removes doubt, counters lies before they spread, and provides clarity for anyone who might have been misled. Their dedication transforms the narrative from one of uncertainty and suspicion to one of undeniable authority. What makes this even more extraordinary is that this kind of support doesn't come from obligation or personal gain. It comes from someone who recognizes the importance of truth and refuses to let it be compromised. They understand that your story isn't just about defending yourself. It's about setting the record straight in a world that often rewards deceit. Their documentation turns your experience into an armor that can't be shattered, a record that cannot be erased, and a truth that cannot be ignored. In doing so, they don't just back you. They ensure that justice, clarity, and accountability finally have the space to prevail. Number 12. They're ready to expose what others hoped would stay buried. Some truths are so uncomfortable that most people would rather let them die in silence. Your enemies counted on that. They assumed that their lies, manipulations, and hidden agendas would remain unseen forever. They believed the narrative they created would hold because nobody had the courage, the patience, or the insight to dig deep enough. But your ally isn't most people. They've seen what others ignored, noticed what others dismissed, and discovered what others thought was safe to hide. And now they're prepared to bring it all to light. Their readiness to expose hidden truths is not about drama or revenge. It's about accountability. They understand that hiding the reality of what happened only protects those who thrive on deception. They've pieced together timelines, evidence, and inconsistencies that reveal the true actions and intentions of the people who tried to manipulate your story. Every lie, every omission, every deliberate misdirection becomes visible under their scrutiny. What was once buried in shadows is now illuminated, and those who hoped the truth would stay hidden suddenly find themselves facing exposure. What makes this particularly powerful is the inevitability of it. Once your ally decides to act, the evidence doesn't vanish, and the narrative cannot be contained. The things people assumed would remain secret are now set to challenge their carefully constructed facades. They can no longer control the story because someone has taken responsibility for presenting it accurately and decisively. Your ally isn't hesitant, they're intentional. Every piece of hidden truth they reveal strengthens your credibility, dismantles the lies, and restores the integrity that was stolen from you. By taking this step, they are not just defending you, they are confronting the entire system of deception that surrounded your situation. They're forcing accountability where others avoided it and creating a space where honesty can no longer be ignored. The power of their action lies in its certainty. The buried cannot remain buried when someone committed to truth is ready to unearth it, and in doing so, they ensure that justice doesn't just arrive, it arrives loudly, clearly, and undeniably. Number 13. They saw the cost you paid for being honest, and that changed everything. Honesty isn't free. You've felt that in every lost opportunity, every broken relationship, every whispered doubt from people who should have known better. It's exhausting, isolating, and sometimes downright painful. Most people see the consequences of telling the truth and assume you're exaggerating, or they take your calm endurance as proof that it wasn't that bad. But this ally saw it. They saw the weight you carried silently, the sacrifices you made simply to remain authentic, and the ways your integrity was tested relentlessly. They recognized that what you endured wasn't casual. It was intentional, systemic, and unnecessary. That awareness alone shifted their perspective completely. When someone witnesses the cost of your honesty, it doesn't just validate your words, it validates your character. They realized that you weren't lying for attention, overreacting to slights, or imagining drama where there was none. The consequences you suffered were tangible, measurable, and consistent. They weren't isolated incidents. They were part of a pattern that screamed the truth, even if no one else wanted to hear it. Understanding the toll it took on you gave them clarity. Your honesty came with stakes that most people would never survive, and the fact that you survived it without compromise made their support urgent and undeniable. This awareness ignited a sense of responsibility in them. They didn't step in out of obligation, sympathy, or ego. They stepped in because they understood the depth of your struggle and the injustice that allowed it to continue. Every step they take to defend you is fueled by that understanding. They see that your truth carries weight, and they refuse to let that weight be dismissed or minimized. By recognizing the cost of your honesty, they became more than an ally. They became an active force, correcting what was wrong. Their commitment isn't fleeting. It's grounded in the reality of your experience. Your ally knows exactly what was taken from you, and that knowledge drives them to ensure that the truth not only surfaces, but triumphs. The stakes of your honesty finally became clear to someone who could act, and that understanding changed everything. Number 14. The proof didn't just clear your story, it confirmed your character. Truth is more than facts. It's who you are when no one is watching, how you respond under pressure, and the consistency you maintain even when everything around you is chaotic. That's exactly what this ally saw. The proof they uncovered didn't just validate the events you described, it revealed the person behind those events. It showed that your integrity wasn't situational, that your honesty wasn't negotiable, and that your character remained unshaken despite the lies, manipulation, and attacks leveled against you. The evidence became a mirror, reflecting not just the reality of what happened, but the strength, resilience, and authenticity you carried through it all. What makes this confirmation so profound is that character is invisible to most people. Lies and false narratives can make others question your intentions, painting you as someone fragile, unreliable, or dishonest. But character shows itself in how you respond consistently, how you endure unfairness, and how you maintain truth even when silence or compromise would be easier. Your ally didn't just see the facts. They saw the pattern of your responses over time. They saw restraint where chaos demanded reaction, clarity where confusion reigned, and courage where fear tried to dominate. That level of observation doesn't just affirm the truth, it validates the essence of who you are. This confirmation changes everything because it removes the question of credibility. No longer is your story just a series of events that can be debated or twisted. It's inseparable from the person telling it. Your ally now holds irrefutable proof that the values you claim, the honesty you defend, and the integrity you embody are real, consistent, and undeniable. The impact of this extends beyond vindication. It redefines your presence in the world and how others perceive you. Lies crumble not just because of evidence, but because evidence aligns perfectly with character. The person behind the truth cannot be disputed, manipulated, or dismissed. This ally didn't just back your story. They confirmed that the foundation of that story is your unwavering character, making every doubt, lie, or manipulation meaningless in the face of the reality they now see. Your truth and your character are finally inseparable, and no one can undo that. The story we've explored isn't just about being believed, it's about the undeniable power of truth when it meets the right eyes, the right mind, and the right heart. Every point we've discussed reveals a reality many never witness, that the truth isn't fragile, it isn't fleeting, and it cannot be erased when someone committed to justice decides to uncover it. From recognizing patterns others pretended not to see, to discovering the critical piece of evidence your enemies thought was buried forever, to exposing the intentions behind every lie, your story has been validated in ways that go far beyond mere words. What makes this journey extraordinary is that it highlights the rare people who step into the storm, not for recognition or reward, but because principle demands it. They pay attention where others are careless, they act where others remain silent, and they illuminate what others wanted hidden. They don't just support you, they document, defend, and fortify the truth until it becomes unstoppable. The courage, the precision, and the unwavering commitment of these allies transform your struggle into a testament of integrity, resilience, and undeniable character. And here's the most remarkable part. This isn't just a personal victory. It's a wake-up call to everyone who ever doubted, dismissed, or attempted to manipulate your story. Your truth has allies, it has proof, and it has power. Lies crumble, false narratives collapse, and the people who tried to silence you are exposed not because of rhetoric, but because of undeniable reality. Your story now stands complete, validated, and unstoppable. Your character shines through every piece of evidence, and those who witnessed your struggle are now champions of your truth. This is more than vindication. It's a statement, a declaration that honesty, perseverance, and unwavering integrity will always find their way to light. It's a reminder that no matter how loud the lies, no matter how coordinated the deception, truth backed by evidence and courage cannot be suppressed. If you found this video powerful, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more deep, eye-opening insights. Don't forget to like this video to support the message. Comment your thoughts so we can continue the conversation, and share it with anyone who needs to witness the power of truth. The world deserves to see what happens when honesty meets action, and you can help spread it. God bless you.